Thank you so much, Chamberlain. Well, interesting conversation you had there. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for just about 30 minutes before we head back to the Sunrise Daily studio. We start from the global space where oil prices steadied on Asian trading on Wednesday as traders are weighing development in the Middle East conflict against continued bearish expectations for demand. We look at the numbers and we see just a bit of movement right there. For instance, in Brent, we see 22 cents is what was added to it to $77.40 a barrel. That's 0.3%, while for WTI it's just 14 cents added. That's 0.2% to $73.71 a barrel. And of course, we do know that issues around going on in the Middle East is a major driver of the market. So prices had plunged more than 4% in the previous session on the possible Hezbollah-Israel ceasefire. But markets remain wary of a potential Israeli attack on Iran's oil infrastructure. The sell-off on Tuesday followed a rally that began after Iran launched a missile barrage at Israel. That happened on October 1, culminating an 8% gain on the week. That was on Friday, the largest ever. On the demand front, data shows that United States crude oil stockpiles rose by nearly 11 million barrels last week, and that is much more than what was expected. We come back home to the Naira now. There was an intervention by the Central Bank of Nigeria in the FX market yesterday, and of course that shows in the numbers. So we see that it's not infirm. We're yet to get more story on that, but we do know, of course, the introduction of that IFM also is a factor. But yesterday we saw a huge gain on the value of the Naira, about 73 Naira 40 kobo added on the NFM platform, 4.50. That's about 73 Naira. So we see, even though it opened at 1,635 Naira 15 kobo, at the close of trade, the Naira was going for 1,561 Naira 75 kobo. On NAFEX, it's actually a flip side. I guess it takes a lot of time, as we always say, that more of the demand are here. So it tickles down here after so much time. So it closed at 1,630 Naira and 90 kobo. But I guess this is built on the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria yesterday towards the close of trade. Now, not so good news from latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics, which is that Nigeria's capital importation declined in the second quarter of 2024. There was 22.85% drop from 3.37 billion in the first quarter. It went down to 2.60 billion in the second quarter of 2024, just when we're looking for so much FX. Well, this current figure represents a substantial year-on-year increase year-on-year, 152.8%. That's year on year. But of course, quarter to quarter is what we have seen. Portfolio investment drive that. Leading type of capital import accounting for 53.93%. A total of that, so it's 1.40 billion. That's for portfolio investments, those ones that come and go, the hot fire, Well, other investments total 1.169 billion, making up 44.92 within this category. Loans dominated, constituting a staggering 98.6 at $1.15 billion, while other claims received a modest $16 million during the quarter. Now, experts in the oil and gas as well as mining sectors in the country say the country is facing hard times if a policy to strengthen human capital base is not urgently put in place, that it might get worse. And this is needed to record appreciable growth in the industry. Professionals and other stakeholders from these critical sectors opine that the federal government must urgently brace up for the challenges of bridging the gap that arises from the divestment of IOCs, as international oil companies, and make the build-up of more professionals easy for the growth of the industry. The conversation was at this year's annual lecture series of the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society.
This is an opportunity to have a rethink, have a holistic look at what is happening in the oil sector, with the divestment of the IOCs and the takeover of the operation by the national oil companies. We need to also have the necessary pool of expertise that we're going to feed the industry. So it's about time there is a policy that's going to be built around that, so that we don't have a situation where this current crop of our leaders in the oil industry resign, we will be having the appropriate set of people to run this space. So it's a good discussion that we're starting, and we hope from this discussion we can build on to implementation as the case may be. We just believe that with the recommendations made by the presenter, we can remedy such deficiency and ensure that the future is actually protected.
Everybody's looking for capital, human capital training, more of it, and of course, it all costs money. Now, the private sector is also in focus this morning, and it's the theme at the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce Summit. So they have brought together some members of the private sector discussing the issue of financial inclusion, now to make the most of the potentials in the country. How the changing banking sector landscape can support Nigeria's socio-economic reforms is the focus of this meeting organized by the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce. For the immediate past president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Mr. Ken Opara, the theme is a needed target that can be achieved through financial inclusion.
The formal sector in the banking sector also grew from 54% to 64%. Out of that 74%, the formal banking sector inclusion grew to 64%. Are we there yet? No. I can tell you that much. In Ghana, our next door neighbor, financial inclusion is 96%. The banks will remain internationally competitive. Foreign direct investors will then be able to invest. We're already seeing that even the current recapitalization, no longer just FPIs, foreign portfolio investor. We are seeing foreign direct investors coming in to invest in equity of some of these financial institutions.
The banking sector is just one of the many areas that require attention, which is why the audience here include representatives from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, players in different sectors, and even analysts interested in data to understand the trend of economic movement. All of this, the Chamber says, should be intentionally handled.
I mean, the banking sector is very critical, especially when you talk about U.S.-Nigeria trade. Over the last year, we've had, profit of more than $1 trillion. So the banking sector is very key with respect to investments. Speaking about Nigeria and U.S., if central banks reforms are being adhered to and they have positive impacts on our economy, definitely the skyrocketing effect or the ripple effect would be improved trade volumes between Nigeria and the US. So we look at the digital transformations, we look at the digital variances that are coming up, we look at the rules and regulations that are put together by the CBN. Forex is also something that has been very critical to banking. So with all of this in mind, it's critical that the Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce puts together a forum that speaks to how the banking landscape is transforming the economy of Nigeria and our socio-economic lives.
Conversations such as this become useful only when actions are taken. The Chamber promises to follow up. Yeah, that's it. Private sector getting some attention right there. Well, one topic that never gets old in Nigeria this time is food security. This morning, we want to head all over to Kebbi State to find out what they are doing. And unfortunately, the latest news from Kebbi State is actually that of insecurity, a district head being kidnapped and all that. And we know that insecurity is one of the major challenges to food security in the country. Let's speak to the Commissioner for Agriculture and Natural Resources in that state. We have Mr. Shehu Muazu joins us from there. Good morning, Mr. Muazu, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, madam. How are you? Good morning, viewers.
Good to have you on the program. So the issue of food security is a national one, and we know that for a state like Kebbi, you have a lot of grains, maize, and that are supposed to come from there. But I do not think that we do have a lot of cash crops and fruits. You have cowpeas, onions, millet, sorghum. I wonder how much production we're actually having from Kebbi State at this time.
Madam, we are on it. I can say Kebbi State is one of the largest producers of rice in Nigeria. We are in the same league with states like Niger. Equally, we are the largest producer of onions in Nigeria. You are talking about security. When we come on board as a government, His Excellency, the Governor of Kebbi State, Comrade Nasru Idris, immediately swing into action to address the issue of security, because you can't produce food without securing your land, without securing your farmers. This we comfortably addressed, and all IDPs who are able to return all the IDPs back to their communities and back to farming activity. So I can tell you we are in a very good state as far as farming is concerned in Kebbi.
Share with us how you handle that, because I mean, it's not just Kebbi that is dealing with insecurity as a threat to, the farmers. Some people say, do you send police or vigilantes to the farms, or how do you handle insecurity in your state?
What will happen is immediately the governor come on board, he summoned a meeting with the security chiefs in the state. And they laid their complaints and demand their logistic requirements. The state government was able to attend to, and they were provided with all the logistics requirements, allowances were paid, and then we now come up with an idea of community participation in the security architecture. This was done by providing training to the local vigilante, and as well as providing other logistical requirements to the entire security architecture, including the army, the police, the SS, and the civil defense.
All right. Now, another area is adding value. Seeing that Kebbi has the potential to produce a lot of cash crops, cotton and peanuts and all of that, is there a plan so that we're not just selling out the raw crops? Is there a plan to add value, before it is being sold even to other states or being exported outside the country?
Yeah, His Excellency has launched a comprehensive agricultural development program. This program includes value addition to the crops we are producing. Equally, we have a plan of establishing agro-processing zones. These agro-processing zones will come with what we call the ATCs, that's the Agri-Transformation Centers. At the Agri-Transformation Centers, it is expected that primary value addition will take place by the producing farmers and other entrepreneurs, before now moving to the main agro-production hub at the center. So we are working on it, and we believe in value addition, because that is what will give our people good value for their produce, and that is what will increase the benefit that are derived from the production. We are not only stopping at primary production, we are also moving into the first stage of value addition.
Yeah, so we know that a major challenge to value addition is infrastructure, power, storage facility, and for preservation and processing facilities. Is there like a hub or something that makes it easy? Do you have like off-takers to the farmers that connect the farmers to maybe these processing zones or something like that?
Yeah, the whole idea of a special agri-processing zone is to address these challenges of production. The warehousing aspect, the power aspect, and the other infrastructures required. So the essence is to provide common user facility such that the production or the process will go 24/7 unhindered. That is why we immediately queued into the Bank of Africa Development Bank program. And to the glory of God, we are on top of it. We are one of the states that are considered for the second phase of the agri-processing zones in Nigeria.
But what are the requirements to access it? Because I've had conversations where I've been told that there's free trade zone, there's processing zone, but sometimes the requirements are rather stiff.
Please come again.
What are the requirements? How can a farmer or an individual access these zones that you're talking about? What do they need to have? What do they need to do?
You see, the idea is this: we are having 3 agri transformation centers in the state. These transformation centers are open to all farmers. They are going to provide storage facilities. They are going to provide inputs. They are going to house mechanization service providers. Then at the center is the main production hub, and this hub is open to all who will be manufacturers. Anybody that want to go into production, all he needs to do is to come and pick a space within the production hub, which is within the agri-processing hub. I think it's open for everybody as long as you meet up with the requirements.
All right. We have to thank you so much, Commissioner for Agriculture and Natural Resources in Kebbi State. We do hope in the coming months we would see the proceeds from both your collaboration with farmers and from the processing zone. That obviously is what we need in the country as we head or look forward to food security. Thank you so much, Mr. Sheumwa.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you.
All right. Now let's shift base. For some days now, the story of Starlings has been in top on the news. NCC, of course, has reacted, and then we've heard of data, the need for increase in tariff or not. And then let's get updates. I did speak to, an official from NCC earlier today, and they assured us that there's the pre-enforcement of penalties on Starlink. That's the stage that they say they are at this time. But let's talk about that. And perhaps the need to increase tariff. We've had players in the sector complain that they're not breaking even at this time. But let's get the first-hand information now from the General Managing Director of VDT Communications, Mr. Abiodun Omoni, joins us right here in the studio. Mr. Omoni, good morning, and thank you so much for your time. I know you're a player in the industry, so you're going to be careful answering this. What was really going on with Starlings and NCC? Some people say they had approval to increase tariff, but the domestic or the local players did not. NCC has come out to say that's not true, and so now they're beginning enforcement of penalties. Being an insider, please gist us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have you.
Okay, Starlink is a company, and VDT Communications is another company as well. We're in the same industry. We provide data communication services, broadband services generally. So, but on this issue, the role of NCC as the regulator. So whom should we believe? Was there really an application? I mean, I don't want to get involved, but I just want to set the tone and say, okay, was there an application? NCC will know. If Starlink had applied, they will know as well. However, if there has been an approval, then whoever gets approval will know. So I don't know the nitty-gritty, but generally, for you to increase a tariff, part of the regulation that guides the industry is so that you will have to get an approval from the NCC. So if that is settled, then there won't be an issue. However, I must say that the industry, the prices is due for review. It's been due for a long while. And you can see, many companies are actually running at losses. MTN, you saw their half-year publication, and the same thing is happening all over. We've been hearing of smaller players dying, not as big as that. But the moment a company like Starlink comes in to the industry, things will change. There's been a lot of dislocation in terms of foreign exchange. Starlink probably counts his money in FX. You know what has happened in the last 1 year to the FX market? So this is actually affecting all operators. If we are talking of cost-reflective tariff, then definitely the reasons why you are seeing losses in operators' operations is because their costs had risen, whereas the revenue had actually not grown. And there is an urgent need for the regulator to start giving
Yeah, but where goes the consumer in this? Because the consumer in Nigeria is getting hit from so many fronts. There was an announcement of an increase in minimum wage, which doesn't go to up to half of the population. Even that seems to have been eroded. Now, we have this tariff, we have petrol, we're looking at subsidy being totally removed, and now we're getting hit on this side. I mean, who's speaking for the consumer? Who's caring for them?
Okay, so these businesses are private enterprises. They are not government or public NGOs. And there is a linkage between investment and profit. Okay, so in an industry where there is no profit, then there can't be investment. In our own industry, if there is no investment, then what we are going to see is poor quality of service. So I hope you are linking what I'm saying. So now it's good to talk for the consumer, but the consumer has to pay the right price. So if the consumer continues to behave like in the days of Nitel, then we will have a non-existent industry. Even the government institutions, the discos that came from the government base, there was band A, band B, tariff. So now, if you talk about consumers, we are all consumers. We consume one thing or the other. There is a structural problem. There is some dislocations that exist now in the economy. So there is FX dislocation in the last 1 year, and that affects the issue of diesel consumption. More than 40% of operators' OPEX it has risen to like 60%. Is expended on diesel. So that is energy. And that is also affected by the FX. So, and aside that, so what that means is that definitely we need to make sure that in a capitalist economy, the operator is able to make profit. If they are not able to make profit, the consumer is even going to suffer bigger losses than the pricing. So we knew maybe in the early 2000s when telecoms came, Nitel was still operating, MTN, Airtel, then Econet, they existed, and the tariff was high. Then we started saying people moved from the lower price to the higher price because they were able to get better quality. So let's restore quality by right pricing in the industry.
So what percentage of increase would be right pricing for operators like yourself?
Well, I mean, the operators themselves, they operate in the economy. So percentage of increase, I can't see anything less than, I don't want to put a particular percentage now, but it may be something gradual. The regulator needs to ease the burden by making sure that maybe something like 50% to start with, and then increasingly, depending on how the economy goes, there may be, and the operator can then put up a system that makes it easy for operators to be able to use cost. Once cost starts increasing, then the margin is thinning out, and as it is now, wiped off. So they do not need to continue to come in and make application. Everybody sees it when the cost. So the regulator can set up a system wherein is getting cost. When cost is rising, then we should be able to moderate and allow the pricing to be as flexible as the cost is.
What change in consumer attitude can we expect with this increase you're asking for? We know now that it seems a lot of consumers, at least in Nigeria, at least in the urban areas, are switching to data. So there's data call more than normal calls. And what change in behavior can we expect? Do you think some people will drop off or will be dropped off the consumer bracket if there's an increase?
I do not really think people will be dropped off. I think quality is going to improve. The data, like you said, is if you look at the operators' growth rate, you will see that data continues to increase, like you just mentioned. I think we are going to get better. We are going to get better service, more services, more applications will come on, and people can then actually do what they are doing faster because operators will have enough resources to invest and buy more modern equipment and that gives better coverage, or even have more equipment that will guarantee better coverage. So what I see is that there's going to be better quality of service, and with better quality of service, then people will be more encouraged to go and use this on other platforms. We have the educational sector. Even though yes, it's been, some people are having data-enabled learning now. This is going to grow more. We have it in banking. More people will be able to operate on this. So, and of course, we have more enriched voice using these voice calls. Many people do their voice call on data now. Then the quality is going to improve, and then that will encourage.
So is this usage. Talk already on with NCC? Can we as consumers say maybe in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, we would hear of this increase? Is that in the pipeline?
In natural sense, I won't talk for NCC, but definitely it can. This can
as operator, you guys have already applied.
Yes,
for
operators
it,
have applied. We are pushing, and it's just justifiable that this be eased and the increment be granted.
All right, thank you so much. I'm not happy to hear that, but I'm a journalist.
That is the reality.
I'm a journalist
that
in this case, and I have to.
I'm preparing everyone for that.
You're preparing our man to pay
for an increase.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Thank you so much, General Managing Director of VDT Communications, Mr. Abiodun.
Group Managing Director.
Group Managing Director.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your views and preparing our minds for that increase.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So now let's just look at a little bit of the market, how the market closed yesterday before we head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio. It was a negative market yesterday, 0.12%. Gain of Monday was wiped off, totally wiped off, and even more. So you see 0.12%. And then activity chart was mostly red at the close of trade. Sectors, banking down, consumers down, industry was slightly up, oil and gas back up right there. But we'll give you fresh numbers at 1 p.m. That'll be Business Incorporated. Ladi and myself will be back here to take you around the world of business in 55 minutes. For now, let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.